The purpose of this Corning training video is to demonstrate the installation of the Corning FuseLite SC Splice-on connector for a buffer tube fan-out kit. Please remember to follow all safety procedures when handling fiber optic cables. The tools needed for this procedure are black ink pen, 2-hole fiber stripper, lint-free wipes, 90% isopropyl alcohol. The next piece of equipment that you'll need is the fusion splicer. This is Corning's OptiSplice 1 fusion splicer. Be sure that you acquire the proper fiber handlers before performing any operation. The splicer comes with the FBC 006H fiber cleaver. Now let's cover the features of the new FuseLite SC connector. The Corning FuseLite SC connector comes in what we call the blister pack, and these are the components that are contained within each pack. The first item is the ferrule subassembly, which has your fiber cleave fiber stub. The long item you see here is called the dust cap antenna, which will be removed later in the process. Then you have your heat shrink sleeve with integrated spring. Then you have your rear housing boot assembly, your inner housing, and then your outer shroud housing, which will go on last. The first step is to make a mark on your buffer tube fan-out kit at 44 millimeters. So we'll install the fiber through the rear boot assembly, and then we will insert it through the heat shrink sleeve. Push that out of the way. Next step is to remove the 900 buffer tube fan out. Next step is you're going to make a mark at 40 millimeters from the end of the fiber. Use the second hole in the 2-hole stripper. And remove the 250 micron coating. Then clean the fiber. And now we'll place the fiber in the proper handler. Make sure you position the 900 all the way up to the positive stop. And close the clamp. And next step, we'll cleave the fiber. Insert the fiber handler into the cleaver. Make sure it is fully seated. Make sure the fiber is oriented straight across the cleaver blade, and bring the anvil down, cleave, and we're ready to insert it in the machine. Be sure to dispose of your fiber splinters appropriately. Your filled fiber will install on the right-hand side of the OptiSplice 1. So make sure that you do not bump the tip of the fiber, and insert the handler in the machine and make sure it's nice and secure and the fiber is straight across the V-groove. Next step, we'll load the ferrule assembly. First thing I want to point out on the ferrule subassembly is the little black dot on the very top. This will ensure proper positioning in the handler. Position the subassembly in the handler. Make sure that it is positioned all the way up flush to the end, and that the black dot is facing upward. Close the handler. Be sure when you load the handler in the machine that you do not damage the end face by making contact with any other objects. So gently load the handler in place. Make sure that it is secure. And next step, close the electrode flap. So let's pick the proper program. This is single mode fiber, so we toggle to programs, right arrow key. You need to make sure that single mode is highlighted. Push the right arrow key, and we are selecting universal single mode fiber. Push home, and now push the green key. Your altitude setting will come up when you first turn the machine on, so press the green key again, and we're ready to splice. So we lower the electrode flap, raise your heat shrink oven lid, release the clamp on your filled fiber, Then gently release the clamp on your connector end. Keep the fiber nice and tight to avoid bending or twisting, and which will break it. Make sure that the heat shrink sleeve comes all the way down to the ferrule assembly, and then load it into the heat shrink oven. Make sure that the sleeve is centered in the middle of the oven and over the splice point. And close the lid. When you hear the audible alert, raise the lid and the clamps of the heat shrink oven. The heat shrink sleeve will be hot, so let it cool for a moment before final assembly. So slide the boot and rear housing assembly up to and over the heat shrink sleeve. You can see how I have it in position now. Now, one key thing is the little black dot on top needs to be in line with the red dot on the inner housing. Slide the inner housing over the antenna. Make sure that everything is in proper alignment, and see how the rear housing and the inner housing come together. Push gently and they snap together. Final step is the outer shroud housing. Notice the key on top. That should be facing up and in alignment with the red dot on the inner housing. Slide it down and gently push together. Last step is the dust cap antenna. Remove it, and this becomes your dust cap. Be sure to place the dust cap back on to protect the connector until it is installed. That's it. If you have any questions or recommendations for videos, call us or send us an email at cablesystems@corning.com. Remember, Corning Cable Systems recommends getting properly trained in fiber optic installation. We offer a series of training classes. Thank you.